It's Katie and Jenna, Jenna and Katie with Friday Night Tears.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Friday Night Tears. I'm Katie.
And I'm Jenna. Let's get into it.
We missed you guys a lot.
Yeah, I feel really bad. We kind of skipped a week or two. It's just, life kind of got away from us, and it was hard to schedule this time.
Yes, I was traveling. I went to North Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia, and it just got to be too much. And but we're back, and we've got a great episode today, and we've planned out our next couple episodes.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about this.
We're super excited. Jenna, what are we talking about today?
Okay, so let me break it down for you. So today we're going to talk about kind of like a battle of a band situation. This is a little bit different than what you've heard before in our previous podcast where we did like a whole genre breakdown or even a deep dive. Well, this is going to have deep dive feels. We're kind of going to compare two different bands that have the same vocalist. If you don't know by now, it's going to be Circa Survive versus Saosin with the vocalist Anthony Green.
Yes.
Additionally, we are going to talk about a deep dive into our live show experiences. And then we're going to bring on a special guest today, the one and only Michael Zola, the graphic designer. And then we'll kind of go over where we tiered these bands if we would have tiered them in a full genre.
Yes, we are very excited about this episode, and some of the episodes that we're going to be doing in the future, we're just kind of trying out, what works, what doesn't. We really love doing the whole genre, but we also kind of want to spend more time on certain bands, and so today we're just going to try a battle of the band situation, and we're very excited. These are two bands that Jen and I both really like, and I think learned a lot about by doing this this episode. Yeah, so we're very excited. Should we share what we're going to be doing the next couple episodes just to give them a little sneak peek?
So after this episode, the following one is going to be a Blink-182 deep dive. We're super excited for that one because MCR worked out really well. So they have a lot of albums, so we can definitely kind of dive deep into each one. Now, they probably won't have as a deep of meaning as MCR did, but they're definitely going to have a lot of fun stories that went along with their writing.
What if we find
Go ahead.
I'm just imagining Greek mythology style like stories. What if we find this insane meaning behind Cheshire Cat and just all of their that would be insane.
If they did have a deeper meaning, I would be impressed. I already love them for who they are, but I would be super impressed.
For sure.
And then next we're going to go over the ska genre. It's pretty relevant because Katie's going to be seeing Streetlight Manifesto.
I am. I'm
so
very
that'll be
excited.
fun. She can talk about her experience in that one. And then the next one after that, we're going to have a special guest episode who we will share when that time comes. We want to spoil it. And then we're going to talk about some bands that go mainstream, one-hit wonders, and how to keep yourself relevant as an artist. So really fun conversation there. I'm really excited about that one. And again, if you guys have any ideas or anything you want to hear or a band that you want us to deep dive, please shoot us a message or email us at FridayNightTears@gmail.com. We're happy to do that for you.
For sure. And I think it's really cool that the next 4 episodes, this one and then the next 3 are all different.
Yeah.
So we can really see what did we like to do and get feedback from our listeners. We got really good feedback that everyone really liked the My Chem deep dive. So it'll be really interesting to see 4 different styles of podcasts and see which one performed the best. And, it's just going to it's a really exciting time.
A lot of data we're going to get.
A lot of data, a lot of shows coming up, Jen.
Yeah, Katie, share the shows.
So Jenna and I really like concerts. I know that's part of the reason that we started this podcast is because, our love for music, and I've always lived really far away from Jenna. And one thing that we would do to kind of keep connected is we would, sometimes meet in the middle or, I'd come down here and go to shows. Well, now that I live in the same area, it seems like the next 2 months we're making up for the whole pandemic that we didn't see any shows. we've got like 8 shows in the next 2 months. Our bank account, not super excited, but our brains are very excited. So I will go ahead and share. So I am seeing Streetlight Manifesto on September 2nd, just by myself. I'm actually going with no one. So I really hope that like I find someone there that I know, because their shows get pretty intense. I used to go with like 2 large friends that would kind of like block me, because they like dance and like do like the crazy ska dancing. But anyway, September 14th, Jenna and I are going to see the Killers
with Amelia.
Yes, one of Jenna's favorite bands. We've both seen the Killers, but we're very excited to see them again.
So excited.
September 18th, only 4 days after seeing the Killers, we just booked 2 days ago to see My Chemical Romance. Yeah. We are so excited. They were supposed to play at a music festival in Atlanta, Music Midtown. But fun fact, Atlanta just passed new gun laws that the park that the festival was at would not have been able to keep guns out. So that's why they had to cancel the festival, because they were worried about people bringing guns in, and because it was at a public park, they would not have been able to stop that. So we love that for where we are. But I love that they were like, we're still going to do another show. So they booked a last minute show, and it's in Atlanta, which is about 8 hours from where we are. But we're so excited, especially because we did the deep dive. We got our tattoo. Like, this is just like the year of MCR.
It truly is. I'm really stoked, because it means there's like a possible tour coming up and a new album.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I know. Very excited. September 24th, again, like a week later, we're going to see Lizzo.
Totally different vibe, but
a little different vibe, but we love Lizzo. Jen and I really like all kinds of music, and we're going with a really great group of girls. Yes. So very excited. In October 4th, Amelia and I are going to see Coin, a band that I don't know too much about, but I'm excited to check them out.
I know a couple songs by them, but yeah, you're going to love them.
I'm super excited. October 22nd, Jenna and I are going to see Mother.
Oh my God, I am going to freak out. I'm so excited for that one.
Just a random band that like Jenna showed me one day. She showed me one song, and now I'm like obsessed with them, and it's really cool. Like, I'm really excited because I don't really ever get to discover new music. Like, Then October 28th, we're going to see Hippocampus. Also super excited for that one with Amelia. And then November 15th, me, Michael, and you are going to see Silver Sun Pickups, which is going to be so good.
I'm actually just as excited for that one. I've loved Silver Sun Pickups since, like, I feel like it seems like middle school. I don't know how long they've been around, but they're been a staple.
I was going to say, to me, they're like your perfect band. Yeah. Like, if I think about like all of the types of music that you like, they encompass just like a perfect band for you. Yeah.
And they're not even that mainstream. Like, I know they're like famous, but like they're not as hyped up as other bands, and I think that's why I love them so much. They're just enough.
They are. Like, they have a couple like hits, but like nobody still really knows them.
Yeah. They're amazing.
For sure. So we are going to be very busy in the next couple months, but it's really exciting. So that's why we're kind of trying to plan some of our episodes. Like, we're doing the ska one because I'm going to see Streetlight. But it's also going to be great content for our podcast, so we're very excited. And kind of the reason that we wanted to do this episode is because Jenna and her man, Michael, who we're going to talk to later, went to actually see Anthony Green, the lead singer of Circa Survive and Saosin. I think it was a week ago.
Yeah, it was last week.
And I hate, it's so funny, like when I listen to podcasters and they're like, oh, I've been waiting to tell you this on air. Like, Jenna and I did that when she was going to tell me about the concert, and I was like, no, tell me on the podcast. And so I have not heard this story and how it went, but her boyfriend, who we're going to interview later, is a huge Anthony Green fan, huge Circa Survive fan. And so I was like, oh, I can't wait to hear about how it went. And she said it was interesting. So tell me about the concert.
Okay, so first and foremost, Anthony Green obviously is iconic, and his voice is so incredible, just as it is in studio as it is live. I mean, that scream that he does, or that high pitched like voice, it's like, it was so amazing. Also, it was at the Orpheum, which for those who don't live in Tampa Bay, what's their new venue, which that's some drama right there. But the venue's small, so it's like a small private show as of being at a large stadium. So he played where if you were standing in the front row, you could have essentially shook hands with him. That's how close I kind of was with him. Like I was like in the second row. So it was pretty cool to be just so close to him and listening to that live sound in the studio. Also, his two bands prior to him starting were amazing. I do remember his first opening act. Her name, or her band name, I guess she's a solo artist, but her band name was Workwife. I recommend her. Workwife.
I love
Workwife
that.
is amazing. I loved her so much. She was so sweet and so nice. I got to talk to her afterwards for a bit. And then the other band before them, I don't remember their name, and Michael can bring it up later if you ask him during his introduction, but they were amazing. They were kind of like a heavier rock band, gothic vibe. So I would say like a goth rock band. Really good. And then we listened to them like actually after we left their album. And then so Anthony Green, let me talk about that show. So there is a certain type of fan base that he has of particular girls. Now, if you know where I'm getting at, it's just like they're obsessed. And if anyone knows Anthony Green, as just, you know, knowing what he does and who he is as living, he has a wife. He has children. Like, he's not like trying to go out and like sleep with groupies, but these girls like were like having a panic attack in the front row. Like they were like melting.
He's also like almost 40, so it's like this isn't like One Direction, sweetie. Like this man is like a chiseled like ex-drug addict. He's like married. Like he does not like want you now.
No, he does not want you. And this one girl, I cannot kid you enough. Like I'm not making this up. This girl was like in the front row, like just melting, her like dancing. She was swaying to his music very heavily. Her hair wouldn't stop moving. She would like tilt her head back and then sway her hair. I wish I could show you what she was doing, but like it was so distracting from the show that I think it ruined the show for me almost. She was that distracting. One
thing that's so funny about you at shows, I can, there's two shows that come to mind. One of the last ones we went to was AJR, and there was like, and I think this happened too at like Next Big Thing, but if there's someone near you and they're annoying, it ruins the entire show for you.
It does.
Like it's like you can't, like you have tunnel vision. Like, and I think that happened too when we saw 21 Pilots. Like we were like it's so funny. And like every time I go to a show with you, I'm like, please just don't let there be like an annoying girl because you're just like you're like, you have to move. Like it's a whole thing.
It's a production for me. I have to enjoy the show, and I want people to enjoy it the way I enjoy it. And I think that's like so hard for me because there are girls that are like, I have to remember, that are like 15, 16 years old or whatever. And they're just like, they think they're going to get noticed. And they think the band member is going to take them back for whatever reason. I don't know. But she really thought that Anthony Green was going to like jump off the stage and be like, yes, you're the one. Like, was
Michael like worried about that or no?
He couldn't stop staring at her too. We literally were like, just like distracted. I mean, you're on floor level. You're like, we're right behind her. There were people like making fun of her behind her back. It was like really hard. Like that was distracting, the bullies and then her. And it was just like, oh my God, like.
The bullies.
There was a group of bullies right behind her. They were legit like mocking her, and then she didn't know because she was so just engulfed in the music. And then what was also really annoying is that people were yelling at him to take off his shirt. I'm like, okay, like that's not appropriate. Like he's in a small, like he has a guitar, it's just him. Like we don't do that. And then people were like screaming out songs for him to play. I'm like, don't demand him to play something. He's not like your dancing monkey. Like let him play his set.
Did he play any like Circa Survive or Saosin songs, or was he
played one Circa song off his newer stuff?
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
That's what's so interesting about him, and that's why I'm excited to talk about him, is like he's like, he's maintained being the lead singer in multiple bands while also having a pretty insane solo career. Like, most people, like, only go solo, like, once they, like, end with a band. You know what I mean?
Not
like,
Anthony.
Not Anthony. Like, I understand the screaming out songs, but, like, telling him to take his shirt off is, like...
He made a joke, too. He goes, oh, I got, like, 7 nipples. You don't want to see this. It was funny, but, like...
That's hilarious.
He's so used to this. This is his, like, some of his fan base is like this. So I think he knows he's kind of, like, you know, an attractive young man. And, like, he knows that he has that appeal to him. So I think he has to play it off because... But that's not what he's about. He sleeps, lives, and dreams music. That's it. Like, he doesn't care about anything else.
He's very... Yeah, his, like, craftsmanship and musicianship is, like, it's untouched. Like, he's incredible. A league
of his own, really. Like, if we're talking about, like, artists out there, like, he is in his own league.
How is his, like looking past that, like, so you're saying he sounded just as good as, like, on the albums? And
here, well, so I would say just as good, but I would say and Michael said he does this a lot too, in live shows that he does, he actually tweaks his songs and changes the lyrics and will, like, sound different in person. So if you're trying to sing along and you're singing something, you're like, did I sing that right? No, he changes the word on you.
Oh, okay. We love that. A little tricky.
He tries to, like, he, like, plays games. He's, like, being stupid, like, on stage. It's just funny. I think that's how he, like, you know, makes it fun.
That's awesome. So overall, would you recommend someone to go see an Anthony Green live show?
I absolutely would. I mean, again, like, it's just one of those things where he's a legend, really. So, like, you had to see him. Like,
he is. He definitely is. One thing, and I know we're gonna just talk about this, but we've seen a lot of concerts, like so many. So before we jump into actually talking about Anthony Green, Jenna and I thought we would share our best concert experience and our worst concert experience.
All right, Katie, take it away. What's your best concert experience?
I have had such a hard time with this, and I figure, like, we'll do more of these. So I just want to make it clear this is not my own. There's so many I want to talk about, but I'm just gonna pick one, and I hope we can just do more of these. But so one time in 2014. I went on a Weezer cruise, and which was really great. I got to hang out with the band. I'm a huge Weezer fan. And we went to the Bahamas, and they rented out a private island. So it was like a day at sea, and then we docked, and it was only the fans on the cruise. It was like hardcore fans, probably like 500 fans, I would say. And they played a private show on a private island in the Bahamas. And they played, like, so many deep cuts. Like, just because, you know, if you see Weezer fans, now, like, you just saw them. Like, they just play, like, Buddy Holly. Like, you know, like, Beverly Hills. Like, the songs that everyone knows.
What the people want.
Yeah, but they knew that, like, these people, I mean, are crazier than me. And so they wanted, like, those deep B-sides that, like, no one's ever heard. And it was so surreal because it was just all, like, their hardcore. I mean, these people paid $1,500 to be on this cruise. You know what I mean? Like, these are intense fans. And it was just so surreal because I know that, like, no one else ever got that opportunity ever again. Like, that was the only time they've ever done that. And the real moment for me is when they started playing Island in the Sun, which is, like, I know is a mainstream song, but they had, like, beach balls. And so everyone was, like, hitting them. We were on an island in the sun, and it was just... It was just so cool because it's like I get to say I've done something that, like, only 500 other people have ever done.
That is pretty cool.
It was really, really cool. That's my most, like, it was really good. And, you know, usually when I see Weezer, they just play all their regular stuff. So it was really nice to kind of, you know, get them to play some songs that, like, they've never played live. So it was really cool. What about you? What's one of the best ones that comes to mind for you?
So I had to put 2, so don't get mad. But
okay.
The first one being Regina Spektor in Georgia. I loved that concert experience for not only because you purchased that as a birthday surprise for me, which was truly amazing, but the second one, it was an intimate show, just like what I saw Anthony Green. It was in a small little venue, and we were pretty close up to her, and it just seemed... it was a really good crowd. No one was being crazy or, like, you know, just annoying. And she played the piano on the stage, and she was so sweet and so just bubbly, and her music live was just you just felt it in your soul, and I sang like every song to every single word, and you just felt like you were in a really good experience. You just like you were there. I still have the shirt that I got from that concert.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know if it fits me anymore, but I still have it.
We might see her again. We didn't put that in our show list, but we're trying to see her again.
Yeah, that one's gonna be tricky. I know we could do it, but again, when you try to see a show that's out of state, it takes a lot more planning. And then my second favorite experience was just recently. We saw Group Love at Gasparilla Music Festival, and I had to add this because I was like in tears. Seeing them live. It was a pretty emotional time for a lot of us personally, but just this band has been a big part of my life for a long time, and then they sang my favorite song, and then I went to tears. So definitely a good concert experience.
That was very interesting for me to witness because, like, for anyone listening that knows, like, Jenna, like, you don't get very emotional that often. Like, I've cried 3 times today. Like, it's Monday. Like, just, I cry a lot. I'm very emotional. Jenna, like, keeps it to herself a little bit. She's a little bit more rigid. So when I saw you have that emotional reaction, I was like, oh, she is going through something, like, in the best way. But I knew that was such a special moment for you because you just love that song so much and that band. So I was really glad that I got to witness that.
It was special. And I believe that between me, you, and Amelia, and for the rest of this fall, we're going to have a lot more special moments.
I know. I'm so excited. Did this happen when we saw Regina Spektor? I think I had a dream about this the other day that it happened again. Was there somebody whose car alarm was going off?
I don't remember, but that's possible.
We were sitting outside for hours, and somebody's car alarm was going off for hours. And we were sitting outside.
That makes sense. I remember we had to sit outside for a long time.
Yes. But I'll never forget to, like, seeing her, and, like, you and I just sing her songs so much, and it's like that moment, kind of like probably what you felt at Group Love, like when you're singing the song in person for the first time, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, it's
because when you listen to a band or a song in the car as you're driving, it's one thing. Like, you listen to the song, you hit repeat, you can rewind it, whatever you have to do. But when you're in concert, it's that one time, and then you're singing it out loud with hundreds of other people together. So you, not only did this song mean something to you, it meant something to 100 other people, and, like, it's just wild.
It's so awesome. Well, we've also had some negative ones.
Yeah, wasn't
some
always
negative
good.
experiences. I had a hard time coming up with one. I was like, I wish I would have kept a better log of all the concerts I've seen, because I think I might need to try to write them all down. But
me too.
Yeah, because I know I've seen a lot. But this one came to mind. A Day to Remember is a band that I really love. For those of you that don't know, they're like hardcore type of band, so a lot of movement, pretty heavy, and they're from Ocala, which is like an hour from where we live, so they come down here pretty frequently. This was, I think, in like 2012. I saw them in Orlando, and I went with an ex-boyfriend, and that was a whole thing. But you know, it's kind of expected at shows like that you might get hit, or you might, you know, but this was like, I mean, people were just on one. Like, it was not like the normal amount of like hitting. Like, people were actually like getting into like fist fights, like right next to us. Like, not just like the pushing, and like there was actual men like in fist fights, and I got like pushed into one of the fist fights, and then my boyfriend at the time like started getting into the fist fight and like punching the guy that like pushed me in, and I'm just like trying to like scream the lyrics, and
so like obviously you were not enjoying the music.
No, and like then I felt unsafe, you know, and so the crowd was just really bad. And then there was something that happened where like their sound kept messing up, so they had to stop one of their songs like 4 times, and so like every time I would get into it, like it would stop, and I just remember like leaving, and I think I was crying. I was just like sore, and it was just between like the issues with the band, and then just like the crowd and the fights, and then the boyfriend, it was just like. And I think that's the last time I've seen them too, so that really sucks, because all the times I've seen them before was a really good experience. So I think that's kind of left like a bad taste in my mouth for for that band. And I think that's a little bit why I'm afraid to see Streetlight Manifesto. Very different genre, but the same type of the same type of like movement in the crowd. And I don't have anyone to like protect me. So I'm a little bit nervous, but I would say that was my...
Hey, but you're stronger now.
You right, girl. I got this. What about you, girl?
Okay, so this one's gonna be kind of controversial. I hate to even say this out loud, but honestly, it was Warped Tour. And while I loved Warped Tour as the idea or what it meant and what kind of bands it brought out, I didn't really get to enjoy each band separately. I felt that you had to rush to each stage to see a band that you wanted to see, or you missed some. And so it's like the idea of when they do a tour like this is very similar to like Next Big Thing or Warped Tour or these type of like things. And in theory, it sounds like a good idea, but putting like a lot of bands back to back is really chaotic and really like stressful for the person like going to the show, because it's like you want to see so many bands, but you don't get to see them all, and so it's stressful for me. And then on top of that, this was like in the middle of the summer, so hot Florida sun. In Warped Tour, and then you didn't really get to see each band up close, so like of course all the crowds were like pushy and you were like in the back and you didn't really get to hear them. And then if you did hear the band you wanted, there was another band playing on another stage and you heard that over your band. And then like everyone was like really drunk and just annoying. And I mean, I can't really complain too much. It was no Woodstock 99, but it was super relevant right now if anyone's seen Netflix.
Oh yeah, I haven't watched it, but
yeah. But it was something.
So I kind of agree, and I think like back in the day I used to love festivals, and it sounded like a really good idea. Oh, only $60 and I can see all of these bands. And like as I'm older, like it just sounds more and more awful like to do. Like Next Big Thing wasn't as bad. Like
it's not as bad.
Yeah, the smaller ones like I'm okay with, but like the idea of going to like I always want to go to like Riot Fest like in Chicago. Like they have so many good bands there every single year. I'm like I want to go, and then I just don't. And I'm like I probably wouldn't like it because they'd probably put like My Chem and The Used like in the same slot, and I'd have to choose, and I'd be upset. You know what I mean? Like so. Well,
what's great about Next Big Thing is they have the seats. So at the end of the night, that you have the chance to watch the big headliner sitting down.
We love seats now. We're 30. We love seats.
We're seat girls now. Although I do like standing in a small venue like I did with Anthony Green. I think that's acceptable. And even then, my legs were pretty sore after the night, but
for sure. But at like a big thing, like when we're going to see My Chem, like I would not want to be in the pit. Like just be, even if I could afford it, like it would just be way too much. Like it would not be enjoyable.
No. And imagine all the people trying to like be pushy and kind of like the fans. Every single band has a group of fans that you're just like, okay, this is it. Like let's calm down. Yeah,
that's like a whole like several episodes that we could probably talk about, and like oh my god, that'd be so awesome.
But we should probably take a break because we have a lot to dig into still. So
we will be right back, and we will dive into Anthony Green and his two bands. All right, we are back, and we are ready to start this battle of the bands.
Yay! Before we get into it, let's talk about our initial tiers for Saosin and Circa Survive. Katie, what do you give Saosin?
Initially, when we made our list years and years ago, Saosin was a tier 3 on my list.
Okay, same for me. I don't think it was that many years, but yes. And then
back in our day.
And then for Circa Survive?
Circa Survive, I gave them a tier 2.
Me too. Okay.
So let's see at the end if that changes.
All right. Katie, go ahead and give us a brief background on who Anthony Green is and what makes this guy so popular for both bands.
What makes this guy want 15-year-old girls to just throw themselves at him? Well, he's amazing. So Anthony Green is the lead singer of both Saosin and Circa Survive, also a lead singer of a band called Sounds of Animals Fighting, which Sounds really intriguing. He is from Pennsylvania, and as I kind of shared earlier, he's one of those rare types of artists that have maintained a solo career while maintaining being in other bands. I just feel like that's pretty rare. I feel like, you know, you either start solo and then you go into a band, or you're in bands and then you're like, screw them, and then you go do your own thing. So that just kind of shows you what Jenna said. Like, he's a top tier musician.
Yeah.
Like nothing satisfies his need to make music. Like, he has to be in so many simultaneous projects just to get his creative point across.
And he just made an album too for his solo stuff. It just came out.
And I know he's been doing the solo stuff since like 2008. So it's crazy. He has had a long battle with alcohol, heroin, and even fentanyl, which are very intense drugs. But I believe he's sober now. I saw some mixed things online, but I'm pretty sure he's sober.
I actually want to add something to that. So
Okay.
I believe he is sober, but there may have been something that happened. So me and Michael had plans to see Circa Survive, I believe, earlier this year. And it was going to be just on Blue Sky Noise only. And they canceled the tour the day of, or the show the day of, because of Anthony Green's, he relapsed. So while I think he's sober, he definitely had some issues this year already.
Wow. Well, we wish him the best. We love him. My first introduction to actually any of Saosin or Circa Survive's music was through Anthony Green. His solo, a song called Dear Child, I've Been Trying to Reach You, which is,
a good song.
I think that might need to be on our playlist.
Yes.
We both really love that song, but someone from high school showed me that song, and I was just hooked on his voice. As Jenna said, his screams and his high-pitched voice, like, you could hear it and everyone knows exactly who he is. And through that song, I kind of started discovering his other projects, and now I love everything that he does.
I agree.
Yeah, he is awesome.
Yeah, I can't believe I saw him live still. That's just crazy.
I know, I'm so jealous. I forgot about that show that you guys were going to go to, and I forgot that it got canceled.
Yeah.
All
it really
right,
sucks
so-
because we were going to do like the VIP thing afterwards. We were going to like stay and like sit down with him, or like he does like a little acoustic stuff. So it sucked.
Oh, dang. That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
So now we're going to kind of dive into our very first battle of the bands. We're basically just going to do mini deep dives on both bands and then kind of share our thoughts. So Jenna, you want to take it away with Saosin?
I sure do. Okay, so Saosin, their origin story started in Orange County, California, pretty far away from Pennsylvania. Wonder how we got to know the people over there.
I know, so random.
I know, when I saw that, I was like, what? But that started in 2003, so this band definitely has some roots in the music industry. The band was formed by the members, I think it's Bay is how you would pronounce it, or Bew. I'm not really sure. It's one of those words that I'm probably going to mispronounce.
I think it's Bo.
Bo. Oh my God. Thank you. Okay. Bo, Justin, Zach, and then Anthony Green. So the year that the band decided to release their first EP, Anthony was like, peace, I'm out. And then he was later replaced by Cove, who everyone knows Saosin by their iconic songs with Cove as their lead singer. So although Anthony Green, and I'll get into it, is in the band again, if you knew Saosin back in high school, it was with Cove and not Anthony Green. If we fast forward to 2010, though, Cove was released from the band. There was some controversy with that. I will say that Michael knows a little bit more about it from doing like the deep Reddit dives when he was researching the band. He knows more about these bands than I do because he's just been so embedded with them. But the original band members that were previously before Cove and then Anthony are back together. I think Justin might be out there, someone else, but I couldn't remember. They're back together to create a new album that was released in 2016. That was their latest album, and I think they have another one coming out. So I don't know if I'm right about that or not. But Saosin emerged from the emo and post-hardcore scenes during the early 2000s, And they have been known for their harmonizing vocals and their guitar riffs with delays and then natural harmonics as a form of like creating a melody. You'll hear that in their newest album, the 2016 version. And then they've been known to be a pioneer for the post-hardcore scene. That makes sense since they've been around since 2003. I could see that they're definitely probably one of the starters in that scene.
For sure. That makes sense to me too. And like when I think it's so interesting to think about genres and like the post-hardcore is one that I'd really like to like explore more, because I think anytime I hear a band and I hear that it's like post-hardcore, I'm like, I'm obsessed with that band. Like I think that might be like my favorite genre and I just always forget about it. But Saosin typically is a little bit like harder and more fast than Circa Survive, so that genre kind of really makes sense to me for them.
Exactly. So Anthony Green initially suggested the name Saosin for the band. The Saosin word actually means careful in Chinese. Does it? I don't know. We don't know. But the word comes from a 15th century proverb about fathers with their sons who are being married off for money to not get emotionally involved with their wives, as they could die at any time. So he explains that the meaning behind this as being a reference to the fact that nothing is internal, and that is it a mistake to become overly attached to anyone or anything, because that thing will eventually be lost. While Green's personal interpretation of the word is obscure, it is generally used in Chinese as a means to express caution. So there's definitely some different interpretations to it. But after learning this, I really love that.
I kind of really love that, and that kind of just like, that's such a like dark, like it's true about life of just like, don't get too attached, but it's a very like dark like thing to create your band around. So I love that. I love anything
leave it to
like
Anthony
dark
Green to
and
have
sad.
something so dark.
I know, like nobody would know that. That's crazy.
So getting back into their music, they've been known, like I said, for their distinct musical style. If you were listening to post-hardcore or any type of pop punk music back in high school, they definitely stood out in their own way. So Saosin played the first Taste of Chaos tour with The Used, My Chemical Romance, Killswitch Engage, Senses Failed, and Static Lullaby. And then
gosh. I would have
lineup.
loved to see that.
I know. That's what a great. I think Michael said he saw Taste of Chaos tour. He went to one of those.
Wow.
I know, lucky for him. They were signed to Capitol Records and toured the United States with the Warped Tour for the second time. So when Warped Tour came out the second time they went. And they were not there when I saw Warped Tour.
No.
When I went, it was like Paramore and Cody and Cambria, I think, were the main ones.
Katy Perry used to do Warped Tour back in the day. Yeah.
When Katy Perry was an OG, but I have some mixed feelings now. Then they released the Saosin EP, and at first it was intended to be a free sampler, but then Capitol Records wouldn't allow this, and then released it as an EP. So there's definitely some controversy with their early music releases, and then that album contained some demo versions of songs later recorded on their first full-length album. And then they had a video to their single Bury Your Head, which was filmed during the tour, which, if anyone knows, Bury Your Head's an amazing song.
Yes.
And then that band continued to tour for the rest of 2005, who opened up for none other than Avenged Sevenfold and Coheed and Cambria. Speaking of the devil.
What?
Yeah.
Imagine that. That'd be our perfect tour.
Those three bands alone I would be the 15-year-old girl melting.
Oh, yeah.
I love Avenged Sevenfold. I would see them again.
So interesting of like all three of those bands they're all different. So that would be such a great show because you're experiencing like God, we need to bring that back. I love that.
Bring it back. So fun fact. So I brought up Cove earlier. So I mentioned that he was released from the band. Well, here's why he was released. There's some drama to this. He was asked to leave due to his diminishing stage performance and vocal abilities. It kind of gets worse if you think about it. So according to Justin, who was a former band member, he wrote, "We didn't feel he could represent the music that we could have recorded well on stage." And if you think about it, that means they wrote songs for their 2016 album with the idea with Anthony Green singing it and not Cove.
Wow, that is...
And because Cove's not Anthony Green, he wasn't going to be able to perform that way.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's insane.
Isn't that messed up?
That is super messed up.
So Cove, I guess, he's not doing great because now he's the lead vocalist for a band called Dead American. Never heard of this band. I also heard that Justin, who left the band, went to play for Ashley Simpson, and you know how that went.
I just looked up Dead American, and it literally just says members Cove. Like, there's only one member. I'm like, is he just a one-man show? Like,
one-man band.
They have 4,000 likes on Facebook, so that should kind of tell you where Cove is at with his life right now.
Cove's not doing great, but here's the thing. I honor Cove for the music that he gave us for Saosin in the beginning, because he has some of the most, like, iconic songs that Saosin has produced.
Oh, like the entire
first
self-titled.
album.
Yeah, like You're Not Alone. Like, come on.
It's amazing.
It's
so
also crazy.
Go ahead.
Sorry, it's crazy to think like it's just sad to say like your diminishing vocal abilities. It's like kind of like, yeah, you kind of suck. Like your voice just isn't gonna hold up to us anymore.
It's not
like,
Anthony.
It's not Anthony.
So currently they have 3 studio albums, 11 singles, and 1 live album. And why I say currently is because they're still a band, so that means they're in the works of possibly creating another album. Anthony finished his solo album, and I think Anthony is going to take a break on Circa Survive, so I think he's going back to Saosin. So there's definitely some stuff going on with that. Their albums have dramatically dropped on the charts, but they still hold 701,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. And then they have 60.2 followers, 60.2 thousand followers on Instagram. So they still hold a really good following, even though it's been dropping on the charts.
That's insane to me.
Yeah. And if you didn't know, they're actually on a small tour in California to quote unquote dust off the guitars. So I think that really means they're going to make a return.
Oh, 100%. That's like, let's not spend too much money and just kind of tour where we live and make sure that we still want to.
Getting the feelers out there.
Yeah.
But personally, I really only know the first album, Saosin, and then I know Along the Shadow, their 2016 album with Anthony Green. For a band that's only produced 3 albums, to me, they're still pretty iconic. Like the fact that I still know them so well, and they're kind of just like kind of a blimp in the time of high school. It's pretty crazy.
For sure. That first album like screams high school to me. And it's funny because I only knew about that album, and then again I knew about the one that you're talking about that they recently released, Along the Shadow with Anthony Green. But it's funny how like bands like you know about them and then you just forget for a long time, and then something just like, and you're like, oh yeah, this band exists. And that's kind of how I felt about this band. I was like, oh yeah, they're still here. And then I listened and I was like, oh, Anthony's back. We love it.
Hopefully back for a while. So I loved a lot of songs from Saosin, but if I had to narrow it down, obviously their main one's Voices and You're Not Alone. 7 Years is pretty popular, Bury Your Head. And then Sore Distress was a kind of a newer favorite for me. Michael introduced that one to me, and I can't get that one out of my head now. Along the Shadow of Man, Control, and The Urge to Play, and then The Silver String, I think is probably my favorite one out of all of them.
Oh, okay. Save the best for last.
Yeah.
My list is pretty similar. You told me to listen to Sore Distress, and I'm like obsessed with that song. It's so good.
Did not disappoint.
But I pretty much love their entire self-titled 2006 album. You know, the classics, Bury Your Head. I really like Come Close. So you like
Cove's version?
I do. But I really like the new album too. I listened to it front to back again just to prepare for this. The Silver String, I really liked. Illusion and Control, and Sore Distress, I've listened to it like 6 times today. So
now, after listening to the first album and the third album, do you hear a difference for sure?
Oh, 110%. Oh yeah, there's a big difference between just like their range, their vocal abilities, and it makes a different sound, and both sounds are good. But you know, as a fan of Anthony Green, I'm obviously like, I love, and we'll talk about this when we talk about Circa Survive, but his voice is so distinct. Like,
yeah.
If anyone is listening to this, and I don't think you would if you don't know who we're talking about, but if you just love us and you're listening and you need to listen to him right now, because not many other bands like have that vocal sound. Yeah. So it's just something about it. It just makes me really happy, and I'm just always going to be a little more privy to something with him in it, I think, but a little biased, if you will.
Yeah. All right. So let's just get right to Circa Survive. Katie, what do you got for me?
Well, it's interesting because, as Jenna said, Anthony was in Saosin until about, they started in 2003. They just released an EP, and then he was like, peace. He left the band a year later. I found a couple articles and a couple interviews. He said that he was scared of commitment. So it's kind of funny. It felt like there must have been another issue if he just goes to another band. It's like you're still committing. But he also said that he was homesick and depressed. And he also said that he didn't really agree with like the way that the band did their writing process. He said that they excluded him from a lot of stuff. So he was like, you know what? I'm just going to form my own band. So he had a friend named Colin, and eventually they found like 3 other members from other bands that they had just kind of left or quit. And so it was kind of like, it's like the group of misfits that just left other bands, and they started their own band called Circa Survive. And their first release was an EP, which had 4 tracks. 2 of those tracks were re-recorded later on their first album. I don't know how to say it. Jatunra? Maybe we'll ask Michael, but I should know because it's my favorite album. I'm going to say Jatunra. Okay. So 2 of their songs from that album they had on their EP, and then they re-recorded. So because you talked about the origin of the name, I was like, oh my gosh, let me look that up, because it's not really something we've ever talked about, I don't think, but it's super interesting. They were Anthony was talking about they were just trying to like come up with different word pairings. So they were just like at a bar writing 2 like different words that went together and kind of trying to like, have you ever like said something or seen something and you're like, that'd be a good band name? Yeah. Like it's kind of like
the words of Annie Dwyer.
Yes, exactly.
Band name, I call it.
Mousetrap for life. They were just kind of coming up with like, they were like, oh, maybe C and S sounds good. Let's find some C and some S words. And they had a couple different options. They had like City Surrender, Cicadia Survive, which is funny. It's like a bug, but they eventually picked Circa Survive. So it's interesting because I guess to them it kind of means like survival. So a little different than their dark meaning of Saosin, but maybe, he's a new person now. Yeah. We'll see.
Well, if you didn't know, I don't know if you looked this up or are going to talk about it, but their like little symbol means safe camp.
Oh, interesting. No, I did not know that. Okay, well that makes more sense. So they have a little bit more of an extensive, I would say, discography than Saosin. They've released 6 albums, 5 extended albums, and then 16 singles. Their first album was in 2005, so only a year after they were formed. And then their last album was done in like 2017, 2018. So they haven't been doing much for a while. But like we've said, he's got a lot going on. So
yeah,
that is okay.
That was probably during his solo time too.
For sure. Yeah. He's released like a bunch of solo stuff in the last couple of years. I don't know how to say this. This just really blows my mind. They have about 370,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Jenna, you said that Saosin has 701.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
100,000. How is Saosin double as popular on Spotify as Circa Survive? I thought that Circa Survive was way more listened to than Saosin. Like, did you have that impression too?
I thought the same.
I'm going to bring that up to Michael when he comes on. Like, it's, does he already know about that? Don't tell him.
No, I didn't say anything, no. That's just insane. Like, that really shows me, like, how
I think that my music is in a bubble, and I assume that everyone knows the music that I know, but I guess that's not true. Like,
Well,
people.
also for me, like, imagine in a household when me and Michael are just blasting Circa Survive probably 3 or 4 times a week, and then I see that, I'm like, okay, like, there's no way.
Yeah, I cannot wait to get his thoughts on that. But that's really crazy. Like, I just thought that Circa Survive was better, like, more well known. But I guess, again, it's because my bubble is so narrow. I'm like, yeah, my friends know who Circa Survive is. But, like, I have, like, a group of 10 friends. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay,
so
don't feel so sad about this. We were just actually literally today, we were walking, doing some thrift store shopping or doing errands, and Michael was wearing a Circa Survive shirt, and some guy was like, "Hey, nice shirt," and then walked away. So
okay,
like,
Michael just wears that shirt now because everybody compliments him on it. Like, you and I, like, try to dress so nice. Like, we just get, like, spit on. Like, Michael throws on his Circa Survive shirt. People, like, give him money. Like, I'm just like, what the heck?
this is true.
It's so true. So yeah, just very shocking, the stats. So going back to kind of their music, one thing I love to kind of look up is just how bands were influenced. They said they have some major Nirvana influence, and I don't really know how you feel about Nirvana. I guess that's for another podcast. I'm a huge Nirvana fan, and so it's really interesting just to kind of hear some of those similarities, just like kind of the rawness of it. They also said they were influenced by the Deftones, Thrice, Paul Simon, and Bjork. Do you know about Bjork?
Yeah, I could say Deftones for sure, but I'm not so sure about the other ones.
I know, it's so interesting. That's why I was just like, I love looking that up.
But maybe it's the writing style, not the singing.
Very true, very true. As I kind of alluded to with just like Anthony Green as a whole, the sound of Circa Survive for me is so hard to pinpoint, and like that's why when you said post-hardcore for Saosin, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But like, you know, if you look Circa Survive up on Google, it says alternative. I'm like,
what does that mean?
Yeah, like that's such a blanket genre. I'm just like, Circa Survive is one of those bands that like no other band sounds like, and it's not just because of his voice, it's just because the music is like chunky and like thick, and you know what I mean, like you just can squeeze it. Like it's so good. To me, they're more like indie rock, experimental, and like progressive rock. Progressive rock is another one of those genres that I don't really know too much about, but it makes sense to me. But you can't pinpoint them. You just really can't. So they've had they have had 6 albums. I'm not gonna lie, I've only really, before this, I had only really known 3 of them. But now you recommended one to me that now I'm like obsessed with. So let's just kind of go in order. So their first one, I'm gonna call it Jatunra. Was released in 2005. It has the iconic, well, apparently not iconic, you know, only 300,000 people, but it has the iconic to me,
the 300,000.
Yes. Album cover of like the girl in the, you know, like floating in the water or whatever.
The one we all know from high school.
Yes. This is my favorite album, I think, by far, probably just because I have a big connection to it. My favorite movie of all time is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. If you have not watched it, stop what you're doing after you finish this episode and go watch it.
Also, be sure you're going to be ready to cry.
Yeah, be ready to cry. It's a movie with Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet, very serious role about memory and being in a relationship and kind of losing the memories. This first album, Jatunra, is a concept album based on the movie Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Like, literally, I've fact-checked that so many times just to make sure. And so if you listen, specifically the songs that you can hear it from are Oh Hello, Holding Someone's Hair Back, In Fear and Faith, and then Meet Me in Montauk. Montauk is where the movie is taken place. So it's literally, because I was like, oh, I thought it was just influenced. I've confirmed it was a concept album. So it was written about the movie Eternal Sunshine.
I love that movie so much.
It's I know, me too. So the whole album kind of deals with the idea of like letting go and, you know, just like the movie. It's just musically, it's so like, it's like hard but slow, you know, like
Yeah.
I can't describe. This is where I wish we could play.
I know, me too. I wish we could
Like,
like a little sneak peek.
Like I wish, and we're gonna figure that out for you guys. You know, the Popo can't bring us down here. Like we got to start playing music for you guys. But
Music lives matter.
yes, it does. But one thing that I kind of thought about is like, what an interesting choice for a first album. Like typically like a band's first album is very like, I don't know. I've never heard of a band's first album being like such a specific like concept album or like,
But hey,
you know,
it worked for them.
oh my God, it worked so much. A couple of the songs on there that most people know is like Stop the Fucking Car, In Fear and Faith. Like those are kind of their two big songs. So great album. Highly recommend. Their next album is On Letting Go. Their biggest hit is like the difference between poison and medicine. That's on this album. It sounds pretty similar to the first album. Like you can pretty much listen to both and there's not a huge sound difference. And this, I read that this album, each song is about a different type of like letting go. So one is about like letting go in death. One is about like letting go like of addiction. Like it's so interesting.
Oh my God, I did not know that. I think my favorite song off that album is Kicking Your Crosses Down.
Oh, I love that song.
Yeah.
That's an amazing song. You have to promise me that you're going to listen to Jatunra with Eternal Sunshine in mind.
So what I think I'm going to do is watch the movie and then listen to the album the next day.
Has Michael seen the movie?
He may have, but I'll definitely maybe see if he wants to do that with me.
Oh, especially because it's like his favorite band, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. And then their third album, which is Blue Sky Noise, 2010. So the 3 albums in a row. They left their original record label that they had for the first 2 albums and went to Atlantic Record. This album, you can kind of start to see a shift in their sound.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more refined. It's still very chunky, and that word makes sense to me, but it's a little bit more refined and definitely more of like an indie rock sound.
That's my favorite album out of all of them.
Really, it's so good.
Every single song on that album I'm obsessed with.
Yeah, we'll have to pick a couple and put them in we'll have to pick let's pick like one from Jatunra and one from Blue Sky Noise and put it in our playlist.
Okay, any songs from Saosin?
Oh yeah. Oh gosh, we'll have to figure that out.
We'll talk about this.
We'll talk. So those are their kind of first 3, and it's funny because for me they kind of fell off after that, not in terms of musically, but just in terms of like on my radar. Like I don't know what happened in 2010. I think we graduated high school, but like I just didn't really keep up with them after that. I don't know about you.
No, I'm the same. I definitely probably fell off. There was different types of music that I was listening to at that time. I think for me, I know that I was listening to Adele. Adele came out. She was pretty popular during that time. She maybe had her second album. And I was really into Adele. And then I'm trying to think what else I was listening to.
You were also in the Navy.
I was in the Navy during this time. But I was just, so I had like, I was able to listen to music still. But I was trying to think what I was listening to. Circa was on there, but it definitely wasn't keeping up.
No. Yeah, that was a weird time. But so after 2010, they kind of started jumping around and going to different record labels. They even did like a self-released record. Their album called Decensus in 2014, which I really would not have really listened to unless you told me to, because you discovered it, and it was very, very good. Highly recommend. I did some research, and Anthony said that this album is the first time that they didn't like overthink things. For their other albums, they spent months and months like fine tuning each song. For this one, they just finished the whole album in like 2 weeks. And Anthony said like if you're a hardcore Circa Survive fan, like you love this album because it's such like, they say it's like them like in an album.
It's their most energy album.
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely their hardest, their most aggressive for sure. And like I said, they haven't really been doing much since about 2017, but we know that he's pretty busy. personally, even before doing this podcast, I've loved Circa Survive. I pretty much only listened to those first 3 albums though. I would say my favorite songs, Always Getting What You Want, Holding Someone's Hair Back, The Greatest Lie, and I Felt Free. Those are like those 3 different, there's 4 different songs on 3 different albums there. And I love Circa Survive.
I think those are all really great choices. So I hate to be this person, but it's going to be a really long list. Thanks to Michael, I have been listening to Circa Survive more than I have my entire life, honestly. And it's not a bad thing. It's just his favorite band. And it's a band that we both enjoy fully without getting like we're not sick of it together. So with that being said, here it goes. The first song, my favorite song out of every single Circa Survive song, is Frozen Creek. I don't know what it is about that song.
I did not know that.
That's my favorite song. Additionally, Get Out, Act Appalled, but the acoustic version, of course. Imposter Syndrome, I Felt Free, Stare Like You'll Stay, Lustration, and Fear and Fate, The Amulet, Descensus, Through the Desert Alone, and Died in the Wool.
Whoa, that was a lot.
Definitely, a lot of these songs are from Blue Sky Noise, I think is the majority of them. And then there was a sprinkle of maybe each album, 1 or 2. And there's probably more. These were the ones I liked on Spotify, so I just wrote those ones down.
Yeah, we'll definitely in our playlist put a couple from each album and definitely some Saosin songs. Yeah, I did not know that your favorite album was Blue Sky Noise, so that's interesting. To me.
I like their first album. Obviously, that gives me nostalgic from like high school. But if I really, truly was going to pick one to listen to front to back, front to cover, front to whatever, it's going to be Blue Sky Noise.
Okay. Well, hey, there are both great albums. They're all great albums. Descensus, though, like special shout out, because it's hard for me to like hear a new album now and like really enjoy it cover to cover. I don't know. I think I'm just like stuck in high school sometimes. Like, why did I not listen to that album before? Like, I love Circa Survive, but you know what I mean?
Here's the thing. What we have access to now, we didn't have access to before. Like, we have Spotify now, which I know is like not really that crazy, but there's so much music to discover on there. Everything's so organized, and you can view things and listen to it and save it, versus back in the day, it was like YouTube and things got taken down, or it was like on MySpace. And so it's just, I think it's a lot easier now.
If you think about like Spotify, it's like the most insane invention. Like the fact that we have that, like, we're so lucky. Like,
Katie, I'll never forget the day you told me to get Spotify. I was sitting in my bedroom on the floor and you go, there's this thing. It's called Spotify. Have you heard of it? And I go, what? What is this? And you're like, this is how I listen to my music now. You're like, oh, it's still pretty indie. It's still new. There's not a lot of music on there, but trust me, they're going to get big. And you called it.
I love that. I love that. I love that story.
I never looked back.
No, we're not Apple Music girls. We're sorry.
I like Apple products. It's just that like I'm so embedded in Spotify that like you could not tear me away from it.
No, even if somebody said like free Apple Music for life, you never have to pay for Spotify. Like you would never like.
I can't leave.
Songs list is you're committed for sure.
I'm committed.
Let's take a quick break and then we will bring on our special guest for a little mini interview, and then we will do our final tiers.
All right.
All right, we are back and ready to jump into our next segment.
Yay. We have our special guest here, Michael Zola.
Hey
guys. Mike.
Hey.
He's sitting next to me. We're sharing headphones, so this is an interesting way. Hopefully in the future we'll come up with a better way to do this, but for now, it is what it is.
This works. You might know Michael from every podcast that Jenna mentions him multiple times, giving him a shout out for his contribution of our logo.
Yeah.
So he is amazing. We love him for that. And today we love him for allowing us to interview him.
Thank you. Yeah, big fan of the podcast myself.
Thank you. Thank you. You were in the room when we were conceiving, if you will. I don't like that I use that word, but you were in the room when Jenna and I were conceiving the idea.
You guys were so excited. You guys I felt like a light bulb clicked like right above your head. Just you guys like wanted to do this for so long, and then you guys were throwing around the idea, and then it just kept on getting traction, and you were just like, I'm ordering mics like when I get home tonight.
And we did.
I know, and then it was so funny. Like it took us like 2 hours, and then like you went in your office and were like playing a game, and then you came out and we had like pages of notes. Like we had like it was like it's just so funny how quickly Jenna and I just move, you know.
And then when you found the notebook,
Yeah.
Oh, the notebook.
It was special.
Love it. So we are interviewing you today because, well, the first thing I heard about you in terms of music is that you took Jenna to a death metal show. And I was a little concerned about you, but then it was really funny when I met you. I was like, okay. But then she told me that your other favorite band was Circa Survive, or your favorite band, and I was like, okay, we like Michael now.
Yeah, definitely a huge just difference there. Just the light and the heavy. It's almost a little uncharacteristic, but then also it kind of tracks.
For sure.
All right, Katie, you want to start the questions off?
Sure. Okay, so we know that you just saw Anthony Green. Jenna told us about your experience with the girl. Obviously, you like him and everything that he does. Circa Survive, Saosin, and then like his solo stuff. If you had to choose just one of his projects to listen to for the rest of your life, you couldn't listen to any other ones, what would it be and why?
So I would say Circa Survive for sure. Love Saosin, love his solo stuff. It's very just different and just a bit more personal, but I would say Circa Survive for sure. I definitely enjoy Saosin also, like especially more so that Anthony's back in the band, kind of have that semi-original lineup. And especially that comeback album, Along the Shadow, that Saosin put out, I love. I play that all the time. It almost feels like a louder, heavier Circa Survive in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Katie said that.
Nice.
I'm obsessed with it. I had never listened to it.
Really good.
Yeah, Jenna showed me Sore Distress, and now I'm like obsessed with that song.
It's so good. The lyrics to that one specifically are very heavy. I love it. But for Circa Survive, it's very interesting when bands are active for so long. It's almost like Silverstein is still making albums like every 2 or 3 years. Like Circa Survive, like they started in 2005 with Juturna, which is amazing.
Oh,
and
that's how you say it, Katie.
Juturna?
Juturna, gotcha.
What'd you say? I've never heard it pronounced. So I don't know.
Oh, we were hoping you knew.
I think I said Jutunra.
Okay. It's really interesting for pretty much to start in 2005, and they're still putting out music 2022, and it's almost like I don't know how old he was when Juturna came out, early 20s, but I feel like I've aged along with the albums. Like the first 2 albums are very kind of like the post-hardcore sound and kind of a little bit more raw, and then when for me the huge turning point was Blue Sky Noise. That's kind of like the more psychedelic indie rock kind of thing, which is I guess you would say something mainstream for them. It's kind of like a mainstream sound that they kind of concocted there. But then you fast forward to The Amulet, which is my favorite album from them. That's the 2017, and it's like I think Anthony's in his like late 30s. I don't think he's 40 yet, but he's just older. It's like making music for the same band, but you're so much older. So it's more somber.
It's funny you say The Amulet was your favorite album, but for me and Katie, we each had 2 different favorite albums. So
Nice.
like all 3 of us have a different view of Circa Survive.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And actually, if you kind of zoom out, for me, it's every album is so different. So it's like the first 2 are like the post-hardcore albums, and then the Blue Sky Noise is kind of like that psychedelic indie rock. And then you get into Violent Waves, which I'm not a huge fan of that album, which is very ironic. But then Dissensus is like that loud experimental one, and then The Amulet's like the kind of like the soft, somber, kind of chill vibe one. And even I love that some of my favorite stuff that they put out are from these last 2 EPs that they did.
So I have a question. How many times have you seen these artists, and are they just as great in person, or do you prefer the studio version?
So I've seen Saosin twice. Once in 2007 at the Taste of Chaos tour.
Oh, so yeah, I told everyone.
Oh.
Yeah. And then once at Warped Tour. So I've never seen Circa Survive live.
What was the difference between those two tours?
Taste of Chaos, I feel like it was like inside. They really like hammed it up with like the kind of like the scary horror vibe theme, with the smoke stuff and everything. And then Warped Tour was just like a mess, just outside and hot.
All right, Katie, what's your next question on the docket?
I actually have a question that's not on the docket, but I was just wondering, going back to what you said about the Amulet, why would you say that that's your favorite album, considering like that it's such a different sound than their other albums? So
I love that I'm like, as obviously you get older, like I started listening to them in high school, so I was in that high school mindset, which was kind of like the Juturna and On Letting Go. So now that I'm in my young 30s now, I just kind of resonate more so with that chill kind of somber sound that they go for. It's very like introspective. There's a lot. It's like some songs just like never pick up. They don't get as loud as some of the early stuff like Blue Sky Noise or Dissensus. And I just feel like it matches me, especially in a band who it's many people's like anxiety or depression band that they listen to kind of ground themselves again. For me, it's just like the perfect album just because it's chill and it has everything you need there.
So for a man that loves these bands so much, you must have some fun facts up your sleeve to share with us.
So I do know for Circa Survive, I've heard that the Violent Waves album probably should never have been made. I don't know what you guys have talked about. Maybe you guys didn't hit this.
We did not know that.
Okay. So pretty much the band was on just very, very bad terms. And Anthony was very into the substance, and was being just very isolated away from everyone. So it turns out that this album was self-produced, so they did it themselves, but they were on such bad terms that they all recorded their music separately. Like they weren't in the room. Like Anthony tracked the vocals by himself when the music was ready, and it just didn't sound cohesive. I feel like that album had like very little personality. I don't know. It just, for my favorite band like in the whole world, to not enjoy an album is very odd.
Yeah, we did not know that. That's very interesting. You guys want to know a fun fact about another band that only recorded their albums in that way?
Yeah, tell us.
Do you know who it is?
No.
The Postal Service.
Oh,
fun.
Because
Throwback.
Ben Gibbard was doing Death Cab, and so the Postal Service was just like three of them, and they were all in different parts of the state, so they would all record each of their parts separately, and then they would mix it together. They've like only played together like a couple times, like in person.
Wow, that sounds like our favorite girl pop punk band. What was that band? The three girls that we saw at Next Big Thing.
Oh yeah, I don't remember right now.
So bad that we don't remember.
It's
Anyways,
okay.
They all weren't living in the same area, and they recorded separately.
Gotcha. Was it like? No, never mind. I'm not gonna even try to guess.
I'm gonna look it up.
So Michael, thinking about, obviously, I mean, we hope that there are some people that have listened to this podcast for an hour and 15 minutes. Most of them probably have dabbled with Anthony Green and his music, but what would be like your starting album, or, some advice to give someone that has never listened to him or any of his bands, and, what should they start with?
Whenever I usually tell people this, it's usually Blue Sky Noise. I feel like it's just the most, the closest you can get for them to like the mainstream rock sound. It's loud, it's personal, I feel like there's so many different instruments just going in and out, and he sounds great, obviously. So I would definitely say that. Maybe the Amulet next, just because it's a little bit more approachable, welcoming, I guess. Jumping right into the older stuff, I don't know if somebody would necessarily connect so well. I don't know how much nostalgia plays and time and place for when we first heard it, or if it still holds up to, you ever hear those stories about somebody watching like a really famous movie and they just don't think it's funny or something like that, but you think it's hilarious because you have the nostalgia and like you and your friends were laughing about it for so long. So I would say Blue Sky Noise.
Did you know that, I'm going to say it wrong probably, Juniper? I can't even say it.
The first album.
Juturna. Thank you. Oh my God, you guys. If anyone who doesn't know me, I have a really bad problem with pronouncing words that I have to hear it first and then say it. I can't just like say it out
Use
loud.
the flashcards.
I need the flashcards. I can go back to school. But okay, so that album was a concept album. Do you know that?
I did.
Off what movie?
I did. Eternal Sunshine.
Good job.
Great movie.
Have you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've seen it. I think I only saw it because of the Circa album.
That's
when you find that
interesting.
out, yeah, for sure. I don't know if I watched that in college or maybe late high school, but yeah, for sure because of that album.
I want to watch the movie and then listen to the album.
Sure.
You have to. It's
Yeah.
so good.
It's so good.
So wait.
I found the band, by the way. It's Meet Me at the Altar.
Oh yeah, that's right. So Michael, you're familiar with how we do things here on Friday Night Tears. We tend to have, some data points that we look at. Typically we'll look at, monthly Spotify listeners as one of our data points. I'm going to share with you the data points for both of these bands, and I don't know if it's going to blow your mind as much as it did mine. Okay. Who do you think has more monthly listeners out of Circa Survive or Saosin?
Circa Survive.
Okay. Get your pants ready, okay? Circa Survive has 353,000 monthly listeners, and Saosin has 700,000 monthly listeners. So Saosin has double the monthly listeners to Circa Survive. Why do you think that is, and is that shocking to you?
So I would never have guessed it before, but is it shocking to me? I'm gonna say no, because there is that album that they put out with Voices and Sleepers. Like there's Bury Your Head. Like there's so many iconic songs on that album, and that's something where like the Anthony Green era, besides like 7 years and like the very very early stuff, like Saosin, like just with Cove, Cove Reaper, yeah. The music that they were putting out was just iconic. Like I feel like that was on kind of like the rock radios. I'm sure it's on a ton of Spotify playlists.
But you wouldn't hear Circa on the radio like you did with Saosin.
No. Even back then, no.
Yeah.
No. Very surprising, but it's so interesting because the last album was 2016.
Well, Saosin did the tour, The Taste of Chaos, so like, and then Warped Tour, and I don't think Circa was involved with that.
I don't know, but even now he splits up the time, and now Circa's on hiatus because he's doing the Saosin stuff, and that's only doing Saosin after he was able to finish the solo stuff. So
it's a whole thing.
I guess it's just really interesting for me because like I knew Saosin, with their self-titled album, the one you just mentioned, and then I kind of knew about them again in 2016, but not a lot. And I guess I just like, I have this issue where I think that everyone knows the same things that I know. So like, because I think that all my friends knew Circa Survive more, I thought that they were just more widely like listened to. But it's so interesting to me when we look at those numbers and like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that is really surprising. And they have a ton of albums. They have a ton of music.
Yeah.
I know. They have like double the amount. So it's crazy.
I get that it's like a niche listen. Especially with the vocals, they're iconic whether you like it or not. But I can see it definitely being hit or miss.
So,
would you describe? Sorry, Jenna. Would you describe their album or their first like couple albums as? Does this word resonate with you? Chunky.
Who? Like their song.
Circa Survive. Like their sound, it's kind of like crunchy, chunky. Like it's just you can just bite. It's just raw. It's so good.
Yeah, it's just so different. It's atmospheric and just the ambiance, and it's those two specifically Juturna for me. I definitely like that more than On Letting Go, but they're both just really amazing.
For sure.
So with that being said, favorite album and favorite song.
So my favorite album for sure is The Amulet from them. I love that. Songs, I feel like
one.
Oh, just one. I would say At Night It Gets Worse. I love that.
I mean, Katie did not list that one. So
I
you're
love that.
clearly
That's
a deep
okay.
cut fan.
It's okay.
But you know what, Michael? We're gonna put that on our Spotify playlist.
We are.
I just personally, I love the later stuff too. The early stuff is maybe a bit more iconic, or maybe a bit more well known, but it's like as they grow, you try and like, how do we add on to this? How do we keep going? And it just seems like, especially Anthony Green being like a a mainstay in like the music scene and just doing a zillion different things at once. I feel like you're always trying to one up the next thing and everything, and I feel like I just kind of get that.
Like you matured with him.
Yeah, and it's great.
So did you love seeing Anthony Green live?
It was really crazy. It was really, really cool. It's almost like someone that you see so long from Instagram or just hearing, and just a voice, putting the face in person to a voice is nuts.
It was a pretty great show.
And it was fun. He was so cool. He was funny.
He was funny.
Yeah. And he remembered something the last time he played in Tampa. I don't know when that was, but he told this whole story. And it was,
yeah, about the chickens.
Oh, the chickens.
yeah, he was like an Ybor and he got chased by a chicken.
Oh, we've all been there.
All right. Well, thank you, Michael, for joining my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. There couldn't have been a better episode that you would have joined.
That is true.
Oh, yeah.
This is where I max out.
He's wearing a Circa Survive shirt.
I do have the Circa Survive shirt on.
You'll have to listen to the episode to hear my rant about your Circa Survive shirt.
Okay.
It's your lucky shirt.
I just got a compliment today.
I told her.
I know. We know, Michael.
Yeah.
Everyone loves your Circa
Everyone
Survive
knows.
shirt. Yes. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you for being our graphic designer and for supporting our podcast. And we love you. And I'll see you tomorrow when we hang out.
Okay. Take it easy.
Bye. I love you.
All
Michael.
right.
Bye.
All right. We are back. And thank you so much to Michael for that great interview.
Yes, thank you, Michael.
Yes. All right. Before we talk about our final tiers of our Battle of the Bands, Saosin and Circa Survive, as always, we're going to do our on repeat. All right. So, Jenna, you can go first.
Okay. As per Jenna's style, or per usual, I pick a song that is just off the deep end. And this one is no stranger. It is Dark Green Water by Great Grandpa. What does Great Grandpa you say? Great Grandpa is a band with 5 members that are Seattle-based. Google says alternative indie, but I think they're wrong. They're more folk in my heart.
Well, I have news for you.
What?
Their website says they are grunge pop.
I don't like that.
Grunge pop sounds amazing to me.
Well, whatever Great Grandpa is, they have 117,000 followers already, so they could blow up. Great Grandpa could be pretty big.
I really wish that Great Grandpa was just a band of 5 grandpas. I was disappointed when I found out that they were not.
They are not.
So why do you like Dark Green Water?
So I like it because it has that like kind of folky indie sound. It's just fun to listen to. It's not that sad, but it's not that happy. It's like a happy medium to me. They have a really cool sound. I don't know. I heard it on my Discover Weekly and never looked back.
I agree. I liked this song, and I love the name, and I would love to do a deep dive on where the name came from. It's very interesting. All right, so we will add that on our playlist along with our Saosin and Circa Survive songs for everyone to listen to. Mine is a little controversial. I was very excited because, as some of you may have figured out by now, Jenna is definitely more of the indie listener, and she likes to, go off the beaten path and, as in her words, off the deep end type of music. I'm pretty, tried and true. So I found a new band, that I really like called Vinyl Theater. The song is called Breaking Up My Bones. They're an American indie rock band. Their first tour, their first way that they got noticed is they went on one of the first tours with 21 Pilots. Oh. So, they're very, they're upbeat, electro pop, indie pop, if you will. Synth, yeah. This song just kind of makes me happy. It's a little more upbeat. Sometimes you guys know I'm deep in my feels. We're listening to Taylor Swift, but today we're just kind of chilling. And I was so excited to show Jenna my song, and so she starts listening. And then she's like, I think I've heard this. And I'm like, no, you haven't. Just keep listening. Just Just, and then she looks and it's in her liked playlist from 1 year ago.
Yeah, almost a year ago, actually.
So at least we know that she liked the song, but I'm a little disappointed because I really tried to find something new. And as per usual, Jenna one-ups me.
Okay, but it felt new to me because I forgot I knew this song, so that helps.
Okay, amazing. I do feel better about that. So Breaking Up My Bones, Vinyl Theater. Great song. If you just want to be in a good mood, highly recommend.
Love. Okay.
Love.
So, let's get into the battle of the bands. Where do these bands land? What tier are they going to be in? Do they move tiers? Do they go up a tier, down a tier? Did they one beat the other band? What happened? What happened?
Typically in a battle, that is what happens. So let's see. So just to remind people, Jenna and I both tiered Saosin as a tier 3, and we both tiered Circa Survive as a tier 2 back when we did our initial tiers.
But
So
with our research,
I moved Saosin to a tier 2.
I also moved Saosin to a tier 2. Why, you ask?
I was just about to ask why.
700,000 followers on Spotify monthly. Almost.
I know. That's like close to some of the, I hate to say it, but like the MyChem, the emo, like that's like close.
MyChem's like 3 million. That's not.
I know, but it's not like, it's not that far. Like it's like, it's way more than I would have expected from them.
Well, you're gonna be pretty mad because they have more than Say Anything.
Shut up. Did you just look that up?
Yeah.
How much does Say Anything have?
488.
I am shooketh. That is crazy. Okay, so we both moved Saosin to a tier 2.
Yep.
All right. So Circa Survive.
Originally we're a 2.
Originally we're a 2, and I am unhappy to share that I have kept them as a tier 2.
Why are you unhappy about that?
Because I don't like that they're the same as Saosin. In my heart, they are not. In my heart, they are a tier 1. But if you look strictly at the data, Circa Survive has more albums, and they have more Instagram followers, but Saosin, I think, has a bigger following based on their listeners and just like the intensity of some of their albums. Like everyone knows Saosin's first album, and like Circa Survive is kind of like sprinkled throughout, you know what I mean? Like, so I would say like the clout of Saosin is kind of makes up for some of the things that they're lacking, and that's why I gave them a 2. But yeah, I kind of wanted Circa Survive to go up.
I did as well, but it is what it is. They're both the same artist, so I guess it makes sense that there was no battle because it's the same man.
Haha, you guys just listen for a battle, and there's no battle.
Maybe the next battle of bands will get something.
We'll make sure. But what do they call this, Jenna?
A draw.
A draw, a friendly draw between artists. We support both artists, and yeah, I think it was great to learn about them, and really just you need to check out Anthony Green's solo stuff too if you guys are interested. He's just amazing.
For sure. All right.
That is the end of our episode. Tune in 2 weeks on September 2nd when we do our Blink-182 deep dive.
And hopefully we will actually make it this time. We have no other obligations.
We're making it. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you so much to Michael for coming on and being our guest. And this was a really fun episode, Jen.
It was. Thank you for doing this with me.
You're welcome. All right, guys, we will see you soon, and let us know in the comments which band you like better.
All right, bye.
Bye.
It's Katie